So let's get started and familiarized with the Maya interface. It looks quite complicated, but once we dissect it, you'll see that all it is that it's different ways of navigating through similar functionalities. So at the top, we have our main menu, and this is just like in any other software. And we have the main functions of file, to open, close your scene, edit, create, and then different ways of selecting objects. And then next to this, we have modifiers, different ways of displaying our scene, and then different windows that will open up. Next to that, we have a menu that can change depending on what mode we're in. So to the bottom, you can see this other drop-down menu where you can change depending on the functionality or what it is you're doing in Maya. So if you're modeling, you will get these different sub-menus, or if you're rigging, it'll switch and you'll see that we have different menus related to rigging functions. We can go to animation and also see all the different menus for animating your scene, effects, rendering, and then you can also make your custom menus. To the bottom of this, we have the main new document, open, save, and undo or redo functions. And then we also have some different selection tools. And this is the rendering option. So we can do our previews or change our render settings, render out our scene. We also have the hypershade editor. So this is where you're going to work with materials in your scene. And then if we go to the right, we have this sidebar. And this sidebar can be switched with these buttons in the top, or we can also switch it through these tabs. So this sidebar will help us navigate and change different components in our scene. For example, we have our channel box editor, which will help with modifying certain parameters, such as like the scale of a geometry. And then we have our modeling toolkit, which is a really helpful way to be able to access different functions of editing a mesh or working with components of your mesh. Next to that, we have the attribute editor, and this is a menu that we'll be using a lot throughout. To the bottom, we have our animation time slider, and this is to be able to play back and forth through the frames in your animation. Here is the main play and stop, fast forward and rewind functions. And then to the bottom, we can actually change the range of the animation that we're working with. So this will only kind of select the number of frames we want to be working with in regards to the whole animation. Then if we go to the left, here we have our outliner. So this is where you can select the different elements in your scene. And then to the left of this, we have our main selection tools. So you can use a regular select by object, or you can use a lasso tool to select several objects. And then under this, we have the three most important functions that are move, rotate, and scale. So these are the first ways of modifying a geometry. To the bottom of this, we have our viewports editors. And so first of all, we have a single viewport, which is the one we're seeing right now. We can switch this to four viewport mode, and this way we can look at our geometries from the top, from a perspective, and then from different side views. Or we could also just work with two viewports. These buttons are really helpful when you're trying to model out an object and you want to see it from different angles or different sides instead of working with one single viewport. And then at the very last thing I want you to see is this help menu here. This help menu will kind of switch depending on what you're clicking on. For example, if we hover over this here and read at the bottom, it says polygon plane. Create a polygonal plane on the grid. Or if we go to this button here, it says display rendering image. So if you don't know what a button does, you can always hover over it and look down at the help menu, and it'll give you a better explanation of what this tool does.